I bought my car with the tuition money. If he wants to go, pay for it himself.
Laughing as he said this, Brian seemed completely unapologetic. How could he spend the money I saved for the tuition on a car? I was about to yell at him, but Paul grabbed my arm.
Okay.
Good. Glad you understand.
Paul answered with his head lowered. Satisfied, Brian laughed and started drinking. Paul glanced at him before heading into his room. Brian didn't notice, but I could see the anger burning in Paul's eyes. I followed Paul into his room. Paul, about the tuition money.
It's fine. I've got some options, and if I have to, I'll work and earn it. I'll even work for the one person Dad can't stand.
With a sly grin, Paul showed his determination. Seeing that he wasn't about to back down, I promised to give him my full support. We too will let him know who he has turned against.
Yeah, I'll never forgive him.
We smiled as we started planning for what was to come. I'm Rachel, a 40-year-old working mom with a son, Paul, who's studying in high school for his college, and a husband, Brian, who works full-time at a company. I lost my parents in an accident when I was still a student. Because of that, I had to start working right after high school, and I've been with my current company for many years now. I met Brian when he was a client of the company I worked for.
Wait, Rachel, you like this game too?
Yeah, I do. At first, I didn't think much of it, but after meeting him a few more times, we started talking about personal stuff. Eventually, we discovered we played the same game, which brought us closer, and after he approached me, we started dating. When I got pregnant with Paul, we decided to get married.
I'm heading out with Paul for a bit.
Are you sure?
It's no big deal. You just take it easy, Rachel.
Brian is a bit assertive, but he always takes good care of me. Because of that, I felt comfortable relying on him.
Mom, it looked like it might rain, so I brought in the laundry and folded it.
Oh, thank you. On the other hand, Paul seems to have inherited my calm personality. He's never really had a rebellious phase and avoids doing anything that would upset others. Before I know it, he's helping with household chores, and I'm always grateful for that.
Oh, Michelle said we should hang out again sometime.
Michelle did. Got it.
When that happens, let me know. I want to see Michelle too.
Brian has an older sister named Michelle. Michelle is a strong-willed, justice-driven person. Paul has always admired her and has said for years that he wants to follow the same path she did. I adore her as well, and marrying Brian has made me realize how lucky I am. I'm home. Wait, Brian's not here?
Oh yeah, doesn't seem like it.
When I got back from work, the only one at home was Paul, who was studying. Today wasn't supposed to be a late night or anything, so where on earth is he? Did you have dinner?
Don't worry about me. I ate just fine.
Since I had planned to come home late today, I prepared some meals in advance. I told them in the morning to heat it up and eat, and it seems Paul followed through.
I'll warm up your portion too, so go take a shower in the meantime.
Thanks. Taking Paul's advice, I went ahead and took a bath first. When I came back out, there was my reheated dinner along with a glass of wine. Paul had already gone back to his room. He really is such a thoughtful son. On the other hand, Brian didn't get home until hours later.
I'm back.
Despite it being the middle of the night, Brian came in drunk and yelling. I noticed the light still on in Paul's room and told Brian to quiet down. Hey, Paul's studying. Keep it down.
Shut up. Don't talk back to me, you low-educated woman.
I bit my tongue at Brian's words. It's true I didn't go far with my education, and I don't really care. However, I simply held back the urge to yell at him for his condescending attitude. Brian, oblivious to my reaction, sprawled out on the couch and started snoring immediately. You'll catch a cold, and it's not my problem. Muttering that, I went straight back to my room. The next morning, I glanced at Brian sleeping on the couch and started preparing breakfast.
Oh, why am I sleeping on the couch?
Ryan woke up a little later, looking somewhat annoyed. I explained to him that he had come home drunk in the middle of the night and fallen asleep on the couch. I've told you to let me know beforehand if you're going out drinking.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Brian gave me a dismissive reply to my words. I felt annoyed, but he went on getting ready as if he didn't care at all. Are you going out? What about breakfast?
I have to work overtime today. No time, so I'm heading out.
With that, Brian left. I let out a deep sigh.
Good morning, Mom.
Good morning. If I remember, you're eating lunch out today, right?
Yeah, that's right. I should be back by the evening, but I'll let you know if I'm running late.
After saying this, Paul ate his breakfast I'd prepared and even cleaned up afterward. The difference between those two is unbelievable. Brian could really learn a thing or two from Paul.
Hey, Mom, did you recently take up golf or something?
Golf? No, I didn't. Why are you asking? When I asked, Paul brought out a golf bag from somewhere. I widened my eyes at the sight of something unfamiliar. Where did that come from?
I found it in the yard. I thought it shouldn't get wet in the rain, so I brought it inside.
There's only one person who would do something like this. I couldn't help but feel exasperated. But I couldn't just ignore it, so I headed over to Brian, who was now lounging on the couch. Brian, you spent our savings without asking, didn't you?
Oh, the golf bag? Yeah, I've gotten into golf recently.
Brian answered without a hint of guilt. He's always been the type to spend our savings on expensive things without consulting me. The storage shed in the yard is already packed with things he's impulsively bought. It wouldn't be as bad if he used only his own earnings, but the fact that he dips into our joint account makes it a real problem. Enough is enough. You'll just lose interest and quit soon anyway.
This time it's different.
I've hidden Paul's college fund to keep it safe, but I have to figure out what to do. Thinking that, I let out another sigh. That evening, Michelle contacted me.
Sorry for calling out of the blue. How's Paul doing? Would he like to use some of my old study guides?
Thank you for thinking of him. I'll ask Paul and let you know. After hearing Michelle's offer, I asked Paul about it. He said he had something he wanted to ask Michelle, so I handed him my phone. While Paul was on the phone, I prepared some snacks.
Thanks, Mom. Here's your phone back.
Are you done? Take these snacks with you.
Thanks.
As I watched Paul head back to his room, I called Michelle again. Thank you so much for everything.
Don't worry about it. Also, I'll give that idiot a piece of my mind for you.
With that, she hung up. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I found out after Brian came home.
About the golf bag, I'm sorry.
Apparently, Michelle had heard about the situation from Paul and gave Brian a stern talking to. He seemed pretty shaken up, looking completely deflated. I told him there wouldn't be a next time and silently thanked both Paul and Michelle in my heart. Sometime later, Paul's final exam of high school came. Paul himself seemed calm and collected, but I was so nervous that I couldn't sit still. When Paul finished his exam, he said he'd given it his best. He came out of his high school looking refreshed.
So do you think you'll get a good score?
Yeah, I scored myself, and I'm pretty sure I made the cut.
That's great.
Even Brian, who usually only thought about himself, seemed concerned about Paul today. It was probably partly because Michelle had scolded him.
By the way, are we okay on tuition and all that?
That's not a problem. I've saved up plenty. I showed him the balance of the hidden account I had been keeping for this purpose. Ryan's eyes widened at the amount, but I quickly hid it again before he could say anything. Paul received a university acceptance letter.
Oh, I did it.
That's great! Congratulations! As a result, Paul was accepted into the university of his desire. When I asked if he wanted to eat out, he said he preferred to eat at home, so I bought lots of groceries and headed back.
I'm home. Did you fail?
What kind of question is that? Paul passed just fine.
Oh, surprising. With a mother who only graduated high school, I didn't think he'd get into a prestigious college. Must be my genes.
Ryan's comment irritated me, but since today was a day of celebration, I chose to hold back. Paul worked hard for this. Soon, he'll be a college student.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I used the tuition money since I figured he'd fail anyway.
I froze for a moment, not understanding his words. What did you just say?
I said I already spent it. There was a car I wanted.
I immediately checked the account balance. The banking card wasn't in the hiding place, and I realized my mistake. It seemed Brian had seen where I'd hidden it.
I bought my car with the tuition money. If he wants to go, pay for it himself.
Laughing as he said this, Brian seemed completely unapologetic. How could he spend the money I saved for Paul's tuition on a car? I was about to yell at him, but Paul grabbed my arm.
Okay.
Good. Glad you understand.
Paul answered with his head lowered. Satisfied, Brian laughed and started drinking. Paul glanced at him before heading into his room. Brian didn't notice, but I could see the anger burning in Paul's eyes. I followed Paul into his room. Paul, about the tuition money.
It's fine. I've got some options, and if I have to, I'll work and earn it. I'll even work for the one person Dad can't stand.
With a sly grin, Paul showed his determination. Seeing that he wasn't about to back down, I promised to give him my full support. We too will let him know who he has turned against.
Yeah, I'll never forgive him.
We smiled as we started planning for what was to come. After securing the tuition money, Paul moved out to live near his university. Ryan, I want a divorce.
A divorce?
Ryan looked at me with a puzzled expression. I thought he might at least be a little upset, but that wasn't the case.
You, a high school graduate, think you can live on your own?
I make plenty of money.
Yeah, right, whatever. I can always get married again and you can suffer alone.
Laughing, he agreed to the divorce. And just like that, we divorced without much fuss. I packed my things and joined Paul. I'll be staying here for a while.
That's fine. Just, if I get a girlfriend, you'll have to make yourself scarce.
Oh, don't you have anyone nice yet?
Sadly, no.
For now, I plan to live with Paul. I then contacted Michelle. I've successfully evacuated.
I see. I'm so sorry about Brian.
This isn't your fault, Michelle. I had already told Michelle about Brian's behavior. From now on, the three of us would work together to get back at him. A few days later, once we had settled in, Michelle came to visit Paul.
All right, Paul, let me show you what it's like to work as a lawyer.
In fact, Michelle is a lawyer, and Paul aspires to become one. He planned to help out at her office with odd job while balancing his university studies. The three of us then headed to the house where Brian still lived.
What do you want now? Don't tell me you're here to wait, Michelle?
Hello, foolish Brian. We're coming in.
Brian, who had been smirking at the sight of me, turned pale when he saw Michelle. Once inside, we found not only Brian, but also a young woman.
Well, she's.
I know all about her. Now I'll handle this as your lawyer.
Michelle, acting as the lawyer I had hired, began addressing Brian's infidelity and misuse of our savings. Confronted by Michelle, whom he couldn't stand, Brian became visibly flustered and couldn't form a coherent response.
So, regarding this matter, we'll be demanding compensation from you.
Wait, but we're family, and the affair happened after Rachel and I split up.
We've already investigated everything and know the full story. Paul, here.
With that, Michelle handed her attorney badge to Paul and rolled her shoulders.
All right, from here on out, I'm going to deal with Brian as his sister. It's going to get noisy, so why don't you two step outside?
At Michelle's suggestion, we left the house with smiles on our faces. I thought I heard a plea for help from behind us, but I ignored it.
See you later.
Michelle, with a dazzling smile, waved us off, and we smiled back before leaving.
Michelle really is amazing, isn't she?
She truly is. As screams echoed from inside the house, we chatted about how impressive Michelle was. The screams weren't only Brian's, a woman's voice was mixed in, meaning Michelle was probably dealing with his affair partner as well. We started chatting about which restaurant would be best to treat Michelle to a meal as a thank you. Paul was the first to notice the affair.
I'm usually at home studying, and Mom's here except when you're at work. So, I guess Dad thought he could meet her outside without anyone noticing.
But Brian's plan didn't work. Paul occasionally went out for fresh air and happened to spot Brian with his affair partner. Realizing what was happening, Paul started gathering evidence.
Honestly, I've disliked Dad for a long time.
Really? I didn't know that. Paul explained that he used to like Brian when he was younger because they played together. But over time, Brian started treating me poorly, and when Paul stood up to him, Brian stopped interacting with him altogether. From then on, Paul's feelings toward Brian turned into dislike. Recently, they barely spoke to each other. Oh, so that's why he asked me about the golf bag. Even though he knew it couldn't possibly belong to me, he must have asked me because he didn't want to talk to Brian.
So, here's Dad's affair partner.
Oh, this woman. The woman in the photo Paul showed me from the affair scene looked familiar. She was one of my coworkers and currently in charge of handling business with Brian. I'll take care of investigating her.
Yeah, I'm counting on you.
With that, I decided to look into his affair partner myself. It turned out she was married, and I even identified her husband. I passed the information to her husband and also introduced him to Michelle.
Don't worry about the tuition money. I'll cover it as an investment in the future.
Michelle covered the tuition money that had been used up. She promised to recover not only the tuition money from Brian, but also all the funds he had misused over the years. Knowing this, we felt relieved, and Paul respected Michelle even more.
I want to be like Michelle someday.
You'll be fine, Paul. By the way, Michelle wasn't helping us so much just because her brother had caused trouble.
It's for my dear sister-in-law, so I'll do everything I can.
Just as I adore Michelle, she also treats me, her sister-in-law, like her own sister. We've had a close relationship, spending our days off together at cafes or shopping.
Besides, Rachel, you were such a big help to me back then.
Michelle is married, but doesn't have children due to infertility. At first, she was devastated by the situation, and I supported her and her husband as much as I could. Michelle has always considered that a debt of gratitude, which is why she helps me and dotes on Paul so much. Honestly, I think she's already more than repaid me.
In that case, it's our turn to return the favor someday.
Since Paul said that, I nodded in agreement. For that reason, we needed to settle things with Brian as soon as possible, for the sake of our future. Muttering that, I steeled myself for what was ahead. Afterward, I successfully recovered both the alimony and the savings Brian had misused.
I'm truly sorry.
Brian didn't put up much resistance, likely because Michelle had come down hard on him. Hearing about the situation from Michelle, even Brian's parents apologized to me. Feeling responsible for the trouble Brian caused, they personally paid me additional compensation.
Wow, this place is amazing.
With that, I quickly decided to move out of Paul's place and into a secure apartment. Paul liked the apartment too, saying, "I'd love to live in a place like this once I start earning as a lawyer." As for Brian, he apparently wanted to apologize to me again, but Michelle stopped him.
If you've paid the alimony, don't ever show your face to her again. She's finally free of someone like you, so don't ruin Rachel's happiness.
She later laughed as she told me how she gave him another thorough dressing down. It seems that Brian kept both our divorce and his affair with my coworker a secret at work, but then the affair partner's husband showed up. He loudly exposed Brian's actions in the company lobby, making everyone at the company aware of what had happened. As a result, Brian was fired from his job. Additionally, my coworker was also dismissed after I reported her behavior to upper management, as it affected the company's reputation.
My parents were furious about the whole thing. Apparently, Brian went back to their house once, but they turned him away.
Brian sold the house to pay the alimony he owed me. When he tried to rely on his parents, they rejected him, leaving him with nowhere to go. So, what happened to Brian?
Even though this apartment has great security, if he waited outside my workplace, it'd still be a hassle for you, Rachel. So I sent him off to work at a factory I know.
Michelle arranged for Brian and his affair partner to work at a factory in the mountains. There were no buses or public transportation in the area, and the only way to get around was by a car. However, since both of them had sold their cars to pay the alimony, they didn't have one. If they tried walking, they risked encountering wild animals in the area. Moreover, the locals, informed by Michelle, were keeping an eye on them.
They've lived selfishly up until now. Losing their freedom is only fair.
Paul said so. Incidentally, Brian not only sold his car and house, but also all the items stored in the shed. However, due to poor storage conditions, most of the items sold for less than half their original value.
All right, I've got to do my best too.
Paul said with a smile. He's currently studying in the law department at his university while training under Michelle. His dream is to help people in need, just like I once was. Seeing his determination, I resolved to support him wholeheartedly from now on. With the issue with Brian finally resolved, I was able to focus more on my work. As a result, I earned a promotion.
That's amazing, Rachel.
It's all thanks to you, Michelle. So, how about we take a trip together sometime? Paul said we should go, just the two of us.
I'd love that. Thank you for still caring about me, even after everything with Brian.
I nodded with a smile at her words. According to Michelle, Brian is now working himself to the bone. He's reportedly struggling mentally since no one is willing to help him, and he's met with coldness wherever he turns. I heard that, unable to indulge in his favorite pastime of shopping, he's now stuck in a hopeless routine of just working every day.
Well, he brought it on himself. By the way, this little one is adorable.
Isn't she? I had been feeling lonely living alone again after so long. That's why I decided to get a cat. I was really fortunate to find a pet-friendly apartment available.
I love cats so much, but my husband isn't a fan, so I can't have one. Can I come over and visit sometimes?
Of course. Both the little one and I will always be waiting for you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Michelle and I remain as close as ever. In fact, without Brian in the picture, I feel like we've grown even closer.
Paul's working hard. He said he wants to make sure you don't have to worry anymore.
That makes me so happy. But can you keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't overdo it?
Of course.
Paul seems to be doing well and is still working hard. He's striving every day to become a lawyer as soon as possible. Whenever I bring him food as a little treat, he looks so happy.
Living alone has taught me a lot. Doing everything myself is pretty tedious and tough. I thought I understood that from helping out before, but doing it every day is really hard.
Well, it's admirable that you're keeping up with it every day, but don't overdo it. Pushing yourself too much isn't good for your health.
When you say it, Mom, it really hits home.
I couldn't help but think how Paul had grown into such a good person, so unlike Brian. A few years later, Paul graduated from college and passed the bar exam. He's now working hard under Michelle, striving to become a fully fledged lawyer.
Hey, Rachel, guess what? Paul finally got a girlfriend.
Really? According to Michelle, Paul had been getting along well with a clerk who works at her law firm for some time. Eventually, the woman confessed her feelings to him, and that's how they started dating. Hearing this made me so happy. Thanks to Paul, I've been able to live a peaceful and happy life. That's why I want him to find his own happiness too. I'll have to let my son go. Hugging my cat, I muttered to myself. Not long after, Paul came to visit me with his girlfriend. Seeing the gentle-looking woman by his side made him look so happy. I'm sure Paul won't turn out like Brian and will always respect her feelings. From the bottom of my heart, I wish for Paul's happiness.